Welcome to all of you from your centers. As we all know, on the 15th day of this third lunar month is the Buddhist holy day known as Magha Puja. It is the day that commemorates when our Buddha gave the Ovada Padimokkha in the midst of the Sangha of 1,250 monks at Veluvana Monastery, the first in the Buddha's dispensation. The teachings that the Buddha gave is an important foundation for the practice of the monks and novices. It lays down the heart of the Buddha's teachings. And in a future Dhamma session, I will talk on how the lay people can also use these teachings in their practice as well. So let us look at who these 1,250 monks were made up of. It is said that of these 1,250 monks, 1,000 were made up of followers of Uruvela Kassapa, Gaya Kassapa, and Nadi Kassapa, and 250 monks were followers of Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Mahamoggallana, in total making up 1,250 monks. This doesn't include Uruvela Kassapa, Gaya Kassapa, Nadi Kassapa, or Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Mahamoggallana themselves. The Buddha had given the Arahant Uruvela Kassapa the distinction of being the foremost out of all the Buddha's disciples in having the most followers. He had 1,002 monks who were all Arahants. So let us learn about the story of the three Kassapa brothers. After the end of the Vasa, the rains retreat, the Buddha told the 60 Arahant monks to wander for the welfare, happiness and benefit of the many, and for no two monks to travel in the same direction, to go alone to spread the Dhamma, to end the suffering in the hearts of the people. The Buddha said that he himself would go to Magdaha first to teach the three fire worshipper brothers. The Buddha walked to the banks of the Naranjara river in the Gaya district, which was the place where the three brothers who were worshipping fire lived. There was a large fire chamber that had one Naga serpent who lived there. This Naga was very violent, extremely venomous, and had supernatural powers. The Naga would harm any stranger who came into the fire chamber, even making them lose their life. The Buddha came to the hermitage of Uruvela Kassapa with an intention to stay one night there. So how did Uruvela Kassapa respond to the Buddha? This is the wisdom of the Buddha, that he came in the evening. They were both fellow ascetics, and to not allow the Buddha to stay would show that Uruvela Kassapa had no metta, loving kindness. Uruvela Kassapa saw that the Buddha was ordained in a different sect and saw that the Buddha had radiant features, but he believed himself that I am an Arahant. So Uruvela Kassapa said in a civil way that if you want to stay with us, then we have no objection, but there is no place to stay, just the fire chamber. He was giving the best welcome for the visitor. If you want to stay tonight, then the only free place is in the fire chamber, and there is a violent Naga in there as well. If you enter, it will be very dangerous. He said this 3 times, but the Buddha said he had no problem with this. The Buddha was happy to stay in the fire chamber, and there was no need to worry. So Uruvela Kassapa allowed it. So the Buddha went to stay there, and Uruvela Kassapa thought to himself that this ascetic wouldn't live till the next morning. The violent Naga would surely destroy him, and the fire in there would be too hot for the Buddha to endure. The Buddha went inside and sat meditation and established his mindfulness firmly. The Naga saw the visitor enter and wanted to get rid of him because he was trespassing. The Naga, with his strong ego and conceit, spread fire to the Buddha, and the Buddha also produced flames as well, which made the fire blaze and glow brightly. Uruvela Kassapa and the 500 followers came to see what had happened. They saw the fire glow and blaze that brightly, and they thought that the ascetic that had asked to stay there wouldn't likely still be alive. But the Buddha was still standing there, and in the end the fire that was blazing and glowing went out. They could see just the sixfold aura of the Buddha shining brightly instead. In the morning the Buddha came out. Uruvela Kassapa went to go see, and he saw that the Naga who had supernatural powers was just a little snake in the Buddha's bowl. This made Uruvela Kassapa and his followers gain faith in the Buddha. But Uruvela Kassapa still smiled, thinking that this ascetic is still not an arahant. I am an arahant. He invited the Buddha to stay longer, because he had faith that this ascetic had a lot of skill and knowledge. The Buddha then went to stay in a wood not far from Uruvela Kassapa's hermitage. On the first period of the first night, the 4 heavenly kings came to pay homage to the Buddha and to listen to Dhamma. On the second night, Saka, the king of the Devas, came to pay homage and to listen to Dhamma, and an even greater radiance emerged. On the third night, the Brahma Sahampati came to pay homage and to listen to Dhamma. It made the Buddha's abode all bright. And each morning Uruvela Kassapa, who would invite the Buddha to a meal, would come and ask, because he had seen the brightness in the forest and knew that this ascetic had a lot of psychic powers. He would ask what the light was from last night, and the Buddha would explain to him. The 4 heavenly kings came on the first night, King Saka on the second night, and Brahma Sahampati on the third night, all coming to pay homage and to listen to Dhamma. Uruvela Kassapa and all the followers had faith in the Buddha, but still thought that they were arahants, and still thought that this ascetic was not an arahant like us. The Buddha made many displays of psychic powers in order to reduce their ego and conceit, but this Kassapa brother's mind was still firm and wouldn't change his views. Later, the Buddha made a great rainstorm appear until the whole forest was engulfed in a big flood, and the fire worshippers needed to use boats. They thought the Buddha had drowned, so they rowed there. But the Buddha had made the water stand back all around, and was there walking meditation in between on dry ground. It was amazing. The ego of Uruvela Kassapa and his followers were lessened, but he still did not believe that the Buddha was an arahant. The Buddha thought that he wanted to give this man a shock, so said to Uruvela Kassapa, "You are not an arahant, nor are you on the path to becoming one. There is nothing that you do by which you might become an arahant or enter into the way to become one." Uruvela Kassapa was distraught and then asked for permission to ordain under the Buddha. The Buddha said, "You are the leader, guide, chief of the 500 fire-worshipping ascetics. You must consult them first, so that they may do as they see fit." So Uruvela Kassapa, who was their teacher, told the ascetics that, "I want to lead the holy life under the Buddha. You may do as you see fit." But the ascetics already had faith in the Buddha, but were only considerate to their teacher, so hadn't asked yet to lead the holy life under the Buddha. But upon knowing their teacher would give up their fire-worshipping practice to go ordain, then they were all ready to ordain as well. They all threw away their belongings and furniture of the fire sacrifice into the water. They ordained under the Buddha and listened to the Dhamma called the Adita Pariyaya Sutta, the fire sermon discourse, where the Buddha taught that visible forms, sound, smells, tastes, touches, and mental objects are burning. The eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind are burning. They are all burning, burning from passion, aversion, and delusion. Uruvela Kassapa and the 500 followers all understood. It didn't take much, because they lacked only wisdom. Their samadhi was already very deep. They contemplated and attained to the highest type of arahant with all the psychic knowledges. And the younger brothers Nadi Kassapa and Gaya Kassapa went to find out what had happened, and saw that their older brother and followers had all ordained under the Buddha, so they also asked for ordination, and they listened to the Dhamma from the Buddha, and all became arahants. So in total it became 1,003 monks. So of the 1,250 monks, is the 1,000 monks from Uruvela Kassapa, who were the highest and most excellent type of arahants. So Uruvela Kassapa was the foremost of all the Buddha's disciples who had the most followers. Can you see that psychic powers can punish and destroy the ego of those who think they have knowledge and have deluded views? And there are examples of this in the present day as well. I have heard many stories from senior monks who had stayed with Venerable Ajahn Chah during the early days. There was one monk who was a Pali scholar. He was determined to practice and learn with Ajahn Chah in his monastery, Wat Nong Pa Pong. But the monk knew that in Wat Nong Pa Pong it was very strict. He didn't know if he could endure it. He felt prepared for it, but being someone intellectual, he was also ready to back out as well. And if he couldn't stay in Wat Nong Pa Pong, how would he get back to the city? He had no transport, and if he had no money, would he be able to walk? Because from Wat Nong Pa Pong to the city was far, about 10 kilometers, and on the way there was only forest and paddy fields. So he thought it would be better to take some money to keep in his bag. He kept a wallet inside his bag. So it happened that when he walked into Wat Nong Pa Pong and asked to practice with Ajahn Chah, when he wanted to open his bag, however he tried, it wouldn't open. And when he tried harder to open his bag, it broke. And then all the others could see that he was carrying money. And Ajahn Chah had taught to give up all of one's money if one wanted to stay at Wat Nong Pa Pong. One couldn't have anything to do with money. And when this scholar monk did stay, he was once following Ajahn Chah on alms round. He established mindfulness and was meditating while walking by counting how many steps he took. And going back to the monastery on alms, he tried to have mindfulness and count how many steps he took. It was true that he was a Pali scholar monk, but he was determined to practice. He had abandoned his Pali teacher and came to learn from Ajahn Chah. Then, just before they entered the gates of the monastery from alms, Ajahn Chah turned around to him and asked, "So, scholar, how many steps did you count?" Then his faith and confidence in Ajahn Chah flooded his heart, and his ego and conceit fell away. He believed in the knowing and the purity of Ajahn Chah. He felt that the rumor that Ajahn Chah was an arahant was really true, and he was glad to learn the Dhamma teachings from Ajahn Chah. So this is Ajahn Chah, who was one of the noble disciples of the Buddha, who could know well into the mind of others. So how much greater must be the Buddha, who is the highest with no equal. It is Appamano Buddho. The Buddha is limitless. Appamano Dhammo. The Dhamma is limitless. And the Sangha is Appamano Sangho, limitless. So on this day, when the Sangha of 1,250 Arahant monks came together, the Buddha taught them the Dhamma and laid down the heart of his teachings. 1. To avoid all evil. 2. To cultivate the good. And 3. To purify the mind. To sleep and sit in a secluded place. That patient endurance is the virtue of a monk. To not insult or to injure. To know moderation in consuming food at the meal. And all the wise say that Nibbana is the highest Dhamma. The wise here refers to all the Buddhas in the past and in the present who teach, who are awakened and fully enlightened. So let us contemplate the teachings that the Buddha taught to avoid all evil, to cultivate the good, and to purify the mind. This is the heart of the teachings that the Buddha laid down in the Ovada Padimokkha on the day of Magha Puja, which falls on the 15th day of the 3rd lunar month. So we will learn this Dhamma in more detail in a future Dhamma session. May you all grow in blessings.